the engineer, and the hunter. The wreckage of the alien vessel cut a jagged scar across the copper-red soil of Novus 9. Zoe Reeves adjusted her respirator as she approached, the planet's thin atmosphere whistling through her environmental suits. External filters. Her salvage scanner pulsed with rhythmic beeps, growing more insistent as she neared the crash site. "Holy stars," she whispered, recognizing the distinctive curved hull and obsidian plating. A Valkyrie hunter ship. Everyone in the outer colonies knew about the Valkyrie. Tall, predatory aliens with iridescent scales and unmatched combat prowess. For 2 decades, they'd raided human settlements with terrifying efficiency. Military propaganda described them as merciless killers, devoid of compassion or reason. Finding one of their ships usually meant you were already dead. Yet something felt wrong about this crash. No emergency beacons, no recovery team. The Valkyrie never abandoned their own. Zoe's scanner beeped urgently, a life sign, weak but persistent. Against her better judgment, she edged closer to the shattered cockpit. The smart play would be to call this in to Colonial Defense, collect the finder's fee, and walk away. Instead, she found herself peering through the twisted metal. Inside lay a Valkyrie warrior, massive and imposing even in its current state. The alien was trapped within its own armor, sleek black plating with pulsing blue energy lines that seemed to be contracting inward. Each labored breath the creature took became shallower than the last as the malfunctioning suit crushed its wearer. The Valkyrie's eyes, startling violet with vertical pupils, locked onto hers. Recognition, followed by hatred, then something unexpected. Desperation. Human, it hissed, the translation implant in Zoe's ear converting the complex clicks and growls into something she could understand. The word dripped with venom, but also unmistakable fear. Every instinct told Zoe to retreat. Valkyrie warriors had slaughtered thousands of colonists. This one would kill her the moment it was free. Instead, she found herself kneeling beside the fallen hunter. "Your armor's compression system is malfunctioning," she said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. "It's crushing you." Observant. "For prey," the Valkyrie managed between strangled breaths. Zoe's engineering background kicked in as she examined the armor. The crash must have damaged the regulatory circuits. The emergency protocols are reading your injuries as severe hemorrhaging and trying to apply pressure. Everywhere. The warrior's claws twitched, stopping just short of her throat. Why? "Still here?" "Good question," Zoe muttered, already pulling tools from her belt. "I build things. Fix things. It's what I do. Can't just watch someone suffocate when I might be able to help." "Even enemy?" "Right now, you're just someone who can't breathe." She located what appeared to be an access panel. "I'm going to try something. My name's Zoe, by the way. Zoe Reeves." The Valkyrie's eyes narrowed. "Tarak, hunt leader of the 7th Talon." Zoe nodded and began working on the panel. The Valkyrie technology was advanced but followed logical principles. Power conduits, hydraulic systems, neural interfaces, different materials but familiar concepts. "Your armor, it's fighting me," she said through gritted teeth as the panel sparked. "Some kind of security measure?" "Biometric." "Lock," Tarak gasped. "Only Valkyrie can open." Zoe's hands hovered over the exposed circuitry. "I need your help then. Can you place your hand here? I think it needs your genetic signature." Tarak hesitated, suspicion warring with survival instinct. Finally, he extended a trembling, clawed hand to the panel. Blue energy rippled across the surface, and the panel slid open fully. "Got it." Zoe worked quickly, bypassing damaged systems and rerouting power. Almost there. With a pneumatic hiss, the chest plate loosened. Tarak drew in a ragged breath, his entire body shuddering with relief. The compression systems across the suit gradually relaxed, allowing the warrior movement, Again. For a tense moment they regarded each other. Tarak was free. Zoe was vulnerable. Years of propaganda and hatred hung between them like a physical barrier. Then Tarak spoke, his voice steadier now. "Why help me when your kind and mine slaughter each other among the stars?" Zoe sat back on, her heels. "Honestly, I'm not sure. Something didn't feel right about walking away." She gestured to the horizon where Novus 9's twin moons were rising. "Besides, night's coming. Temperature drops about 60 degrees. Neither of us is surviving alone." Tarek's scales shifted, reflecting the dying sunlight in ripples of purple and blue. "You have technical skill, rare among humans we encounter." "That's because you mostly encounter our military," Zoe replied. "We're not all soldiers, just like I'm guessing you're not all hunters." "A civilization cannot exist on warriors alone," Tarak admitted. He attempted to sit up, wincing visibly. "Though we pride ourselves on combat excellence." "You're injured," Zoe said, reaching for her medkit. "Beyond what the armor was doing. Internal damage." "The crash." Tarak stopped, suddenly alert. "We were ambushed. 6 ships, not bearing human military markings but using advanced targeting systems. They knew exactly where to hit us. Pirates, maybe?" Zoe suggested, applying a universal coagulant to a seeping wound along Tarek's side. "Deep space has gotten lawless since the war started." "These were not scavengers," Tarak's voice hardened. "Their attack patterns were too precise, too coordinated." Night fell quickly on Novus 9, bringing with it bone-chilling cold. Zoe activated the thermal elements in her suit, but noticed Tarak shivering, his damaged armor unable to regulate temperature properly. "Your biological signature runs hotter than humans," she observed. "Without your armor's systems functioning, I will survive," Tarak said stiffly, though his scales had dulled to a muted gray. A bad sign, Zoe guessed. Making a decision, she moved closer, extending a portable heater unit from her pack. "Body heat, and this should help, unless you prefer to freeze on principle." After a moment's hesitation, Tarak shifted closer to the heat source. "Your actions defy everything my people teach about humans." "Funny, I was thinking the same about you," Zoe replied. "The propaganda vids show Valkyrie eating human children for breakfast." "We are obligate carnivores, but our tastes do not run to young humans," Tarak said, and Zoe caught what might have been humor in his tone. "That's reassuring." They sat in silence as stars appeared in the night sky. Finally, Tarak spoke again. "I have killed 17 humans in combat," he said, quietly. "My hunting trophies are displayed with honor in my family's ancestral hall." Zoe tensed, but kept her voice level. "I've repaired ships that have killed Valkyrie. Does that make me a killer too?" "Perhaps we all have blood on our hands in this war," Tarak conceded. "Tell me, Engineer Zoe Reeves, what brings you to this desolate world?" "Salvage contract. Good money stripping abandoned mining equipment. Been here 3 months." She studied him. "What about you? This isn't your usual hunting ground." "Reconnaissance mission. We received intelligence about unusual activity in this sector. Activity neither human nor Valkyrie." "A third player?" Zoe frowned. "That would explain the ships that attacked you." "Indeed." Tarak examined his damaged armor. "My mission now is to return with this information. The attack was meant to prevent that." The implications hung in the air between them. Someone didn't want either humans or Valkyrie to know what was happening. In this sector, "Your ship," Zoe ventured. "Is it salvageable?" Tarek's gaze met hers. "With my engineering knowledge and your unconventional repair techniques, perhaps. The navigation core appears intact." "So we help each other," Zoe said slowly. "You get off-world with your intelligence, and I don't freeze to death on this rock when my supplies run out." "A temporary alliance," Tarak agreed. Although by Valkyrie custom, I now owe you a life debt for removing my armor. Keep your debt, Zoe said. Just help me understand why someone wants to keep both our species, fighting each other. As the night deepened around them, human and Valkyrie began planning their escape, neither fully trusting the other, yet both recognizing that something larger was at play among the stars. Old hatreds wouldn't disappear overnight, but in the shadow of a crashed ship on a forgotten planet, something new had begun.
Across the stars morning on Novus 9 arrived with harsh, copper-tinted light streaming through the fractured hull of the Valkyrie ship. Zoe woke with a start, her hand instinctively reaching for the plasma cutter at her belt. She relaxed slightly when she saw Tarek already awake, examining the ship's damaged control systems. "Your species requires excessive rest periods," he commented without looking up. His scales had regained some of their iridescent quality overnight, shifting between deep blues and purples as he moved. "And good morning to you too," Zoe replied, checking her suit's oxygen levels. "How's the ship looking?" Tarek's expression, difficult to read on his alien features, appeared grim. "The primary drive system is beyond repair. Navigation is functional, but requires recalibration. Communication arrays are completely destroyed." Zoe moved to examine the exposed circuitry. "I might be able to bypass some of these systems using components from my salvage kit. Your tech is advanced, but the principles are similar." "Similar." Tarek seemed to consider this. "You imply our species developed along comparable technological paths." "Engineering follows universal laws," Zoe said with a shrug. "Electrons don't care what species built the circuit." They worked in tandem through the morning, Zoe's practical mechanical knowledge complementing Tarek's deeper understanding of Valkyrie systems. The ship had been designed for a crew of 4, making the cramped quarters even more challenging as they moved around each other. "Hand me that flux coupler," Zoe said, reaching blindly as she lay halfway inside an access panel. Tarek placed the tool in her outstretched hand. "Your adaptation to our technology is unexpected. I grew up stripping derelict ships in the asteroid belt of Proxima Centauri," she replied, voice muffled by the panel. "You learn to work with whatever you find." The second sun of Novus 9 reached its zenith. They paused to assess their progress. The ship's diagnostics now showed life support and basic maneuvering capabilities restored, but escape velocity would be impossible without repairs to the main thrusters. Tarek produced a small silver container from his armor's storage compartment. "Sustenance," he explained, offering her what appeared to be dried rations. Zoe accepted cautiously. "Is this even compatible with human biology?" "It contains no compounds toxic to your species," Tarek assured her. "We have studied human physiology extensively." "For hunting purposes, I assume," Zoe said dryly, but took a bite regardless. The taste was unfamiliar, but not unpleasant, something between dried fruit and smoked meat. As they ate, Tarek retrieved a damaged data core from his armor. "This contains the information I was sent to gather. Evidence that may explain why our species fight." "May I?" Zoe asked, and after a moment's hesitation, Tarek handed it over. The device was severely damaged, but Zoe recognized the storage architecture. "I think I can extract the data, but I'll need components for my salvage camp. It's about 2 kilometers east." Tarek nodded. "We should both go. This planet harbors predators." "Worse than you?" Zoe asked with a half-smile. "Different," Tarek replied. "They hunt by sound vibration and thermal signature. Dangerous but predictable." They set out across the rusty landscape, Tarek moving with the fluid grace of a natural predator despite his injuries. Zoe noticed how he constantly scanned their surroundings, alertness never wavering. "You mentioned studying human physiology," Zoe ventured. "What else do you know about us?" Tarek's vertical pupils contracted slightly. "Your species is adaptable, resourceful, individually weak but collectively dangerous, prone to emotional decision-making." He glanced at her. "Like helping an enemy when logic dictates otherwise." And what do humans know about the Valkyrie? That you're ruthless killers, 7 feet tall with impenetrable armor and no concept of mercy. Impenetrable except to resourceful humans, Tarek observed, touching the damaged section of his suit. Though much of what you say is not entirely inaccurate. Our society values strength and honor above all else. Honor? Zoe questioned. Attacking civilian settlements doesn't seem very honorable. Tarek stopped abruptly. Civilian settlements? Our warriors are explicitly forbidden from targeting non-combatants. We engage only with military vessels and outposts. Zoe stared at him. Then who destroyed New Haven Colony? And Proxima Station? Thousands of civilians died. Not by Valkyrie hands, Tarek insisted, a new urgency in his voice. This confirms what our intelligence suggested. Someone wants our species at war. They reached Zoe's salvage camp, a small, prefabricated shelter surrounded by piles of sorted mechanical components. As Zoe gathered the tools she needed, a distant rumble caught their attention. Ships, Tarek said, his posture instantly alert. 3 of them, based on the engine signatures. Not Valkyrie, Zoe peered through her scope. Not standard human military either. Mercenary vessels heavily armed. She lowered the scope. Same as the ones that shot you down? Likely, Tarek confirmed. They are tracking my ship's emergency beacon. We must hurry. They gathered what they could carry and started back toward the crash site. The approaching ships were now visible in the sky, sleek, predatory craft with weapons already deployed. We'll never outrun them, Zoe said, calculating their options. No, Tarek agreed. But we can fight. He handed her a weapon from his armor, a compact energy pistol. This is calibrated for human grip strength. Zoe accepted it with surprise. You came prepared to arm humans? I came prepared for many contingencies, Tarek replied. Though not this specific one. They reached the crashed ship, just as the mercenary vessels began their landing approach. Inside, Zoe worked frantically to connect the data core to the ship's systems, while Tarek positioned himself at the breach in the hull. I need 5 minutes, Zoe called. You have 2. Tarek replied as the first mercenaries emerged from their ships. What followed was chaos. Energy weapons flashed as Tarek engaged the attackers with lethal precision. Zoe divided her attention between the delicate connections and returning fire whenever mercenaries got too close. Almost there, she shouted over the weapons fire. If I can just... The data core illuminated, its contents transferring to the ship's main system. On the view screen, images and documents flashed by, classified communications, battle plans, and finally clear evidence of a third party manipulating both human and Valkyrie forces. The Syndicate, Zoe breathed, recognizing the insignia. They've been playing both sides, staging attacks and selling weapons to everyone involved. War profiteers, Tarek growled, firing another precise shot. Dishonorable beyond measure. The ship's engines suddenly hummed to life, the emergency repairs holding. We have power, Zoe exclaimed. But not enough for orbit. Tarek backed toward the cockpit, still firing. We don't need orbit, just distance. He slammed the hull breach closed and secured it. Can you fly this ship? Theoretically, Zoe said, sliding into the pilot's seat. The controls are similar. Enough to hold on. She punched the thrusters and the ship lurched forward, scraping along the ground before rising unsteadily into the air. Behind them, the mercenaries continued firing, several shots impacting the rear shields. Shields at 30%, Tarek reported, taking the co-pilot position. But they're holding. They gained altitude, the mercenary ship scrambling to pursue. Zoe pushed the damaged vessel to its limits, weaving between rocky outcroppings and using the planet's magnetic anomalies to disrupt their pursuers' targeting systems. There, Tarek pointed to a canyon ahead. The mineral deposits will mask our signature. Zoe guided the ship into the narrow ravine, scraping the sides but maintaining control. Behind them, one mercenary vessel attempted to follow and miscalculated, exploding against the canyon wall. The others pulled up, unwilling to risk the same fate. Once clear of immediate danger, they assessed their situation. The ship was holding together, but barely. They had escaped immediate death but remained stranded on Novus 9. The data, Tarek said, turning to the view screen. It must reach both our governments. Zoe nodded, reviewing the evidence. There's a communication relay station on the far side of the planet. If we can reach it, we could broadcast this to both human and Valkyrie frequencies. The Syndicate will try to stop us, Tarak warned. Then we'd better be faster than them, Zoe replied, plotting a course. This information could end a war that never should have happened. As they flew toward the relay station, an uncomfortable silence settled between them. Finally, Tarek spoke. When this is over, Engineer Zoe Reeves, what becomes of us? Do we return to being enemies? Zoe kept her eyes on the controls. I don't think I can go back to hating an entire species based on lies, especially not after, she gestured between them. This. Nor can I, Tarek admitted. Perhaps there is another path, one where our peoples learn from each other rather than destroy each other, one step at a time, Zoe said as the relay station came into view. First, we share the truth. Then we see who's willing to listen. They landed near the automated facility, and together they worked to upload the data to the communication arrays. As the transmission began broadcasting across all frequencies, Zoe turned to Tarek. What will your people do to you for working with a human? Tarek's scales rippled with what might have been amusement. What will yours do to you for aiding a Valkyrie? Probably court-martial me, Zoe said with a grim smile. Unless we can convince them this was worth it. The transmission completed, spreading the evidence of manipulation and deceit across human and Valkyrie space alike. Whatever happened next would depend on leaders far away, but something important had already changed. Zoe extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement. After a moment's consideration, Tarek clasped it with his larger, clawed one. To unlikely alliances, she said. And to finding truth among the stars, Tarek replied. Behind them, the facility's monitors showed the first responses to their transmission, beginning to arrive from both species. The path ahead would not be easy, but it had begun with one human engineer who hadn't walked away when she found an enemy in need of help.